Hello and welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today's video is going to be my overall review of the entire ACOTAR series. This is my last video of this series for this month, and let me tell you, it has been a journey, but one that I have absolutely loved very much. So this series consists of 5 books so far. There are, I think, sort of 2 more coming out as far as we know, but the most recent one, A Quart of Silver Flames, just came out in February, so we're gonna have to wait just a little bit for the next one. I am currently missing the first one in the series because I loaned it to a friend, so I do not have that for this video, unfortunately, but that is all right, because it's also my least favorite book of the series, so we're just gonna hop right in. So, the first one, The Namesake, A Quart of Thorns and Roses. Initially, I gave it a 4-star, but after reading the entire series, I'm taking it down to a 3.5 because it doesn't live up to the other ones, and I need to make that distinction. So, A Quart of Thorns and Roses is kind of the basis for the storyline. We get this human who goes and her family is starving. They live at the bottom of an island. They barely get any land for the humans, where fairies rule the rest of the island in a land. The island is called Prythian, and the fairies are these immortal beings, and there had been a war 500 years ago with the fairies and the humans, and they sort of created this treaty that the fairies and the humans would live separate lives, and they built this wall separating Prythian and like the mortal realm, whatever. Anyway, Feyre is our main character, and she and her family were wealthy at one point, and her father was the Prince of Merchants, and he lost some of his ships, which made them lose all of their wealth, and they ended up living in a small rundown cottage, basically living in poverty. Their mother died when they were younger, and Feyre basically has to hunt to survive and feed her family and keep them alive. So if she doesn't bring them food, they don't eat. She is the youngest of 3 siblings. They are all girls. We've got Nesta is the oldest. I think I'm bad at this. Nesta's the oldest, then Elaine, and then Feyre. So the story starts off with Feyre hunting, and she sees a deer that she wants to shoot, but then she also sees a wolf, and she shoots the said wolf. And sometimes they think that they could be fairies. You never know. Fairies sometimes cross over into the human lands, and so if you get too far into the woods, humans have to be careful because these fairies might come and, like, say, kill them. So she shoots the wolf just in case it's a fairy. They do not like fairies, all that. So she shoots it and then brings the deer home for her family to eat. And then in barges a fairy named Tamlin. And he basically is like, you owe me a life debt because you killed one of my soldiers. He takes her back to Prythian, and she has to live in the fairy world. And her family is cared for. They get money back, all this stuff, and provided for by Tamlin. I'm not going to say anything more than that because that is the basis. But I will say the first book is my least favorite. You really only focus on 3 characters. We have Tamlin, Lucien, and Feyre. So that's kind of who this focuses around. We get some introductions to some other types of fairies. We get some other fairies who we will get to learn more about later on. And the ending, I will say the majority of the first book is really slow, and it takes a while, but you're getting used to the fairy world. You're getting used to, like, the characters. You're getting adjusted. So I understand why it was slow, and it's also the first book in a series, so take that with a grain of salt. Like, it's not going to be the best book in the series. Like, it's going to lead up to stuff. Feyre is just getting adjusted, and she is just being where she needs to be, and kind of, I know a lot of people think she's kind of whiny in this book, but think about, like, where she came from in like poverty and fighting for stuff, and then going to all these riches and this mansion and living in like being surrounded by fairies. And all the stories that they've been told about fairies their whole lives is that fairies are bad, they can't lie, don't eat their food, don't eat their or drink their wine, like all this stuff. So just like kind of keep that in your mind. She's also never experienced like love or anything like that, so this is all kind of first for her. So if she makes a couple stupid mistakes, she makes a couple stupid mistakes, but so would anyone else probably in her position. So I'm just gonna say that's my disclaimer for the first book. There is romance in this series. There is detailed sex scenes as well. So and it gets worse as the series goes on, kind of unfortunately. I could do without majority of that. Thankfully, it doesn't necessarily take away from the storyline, because if it did, then that would be a game changer. Like, it would make it not as worth it for me. So anyway, that is the first book. Moving into the second book, which is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is many people's favorite in the series, and I 1000% understand why. It's probably my second favorite. I mean, I don't know. It might be tied as my favorite because it's so good. So there's not a lot of action. There's a lot more character development and world building. So we're getting to learn a lot more about different courts. So the fairy world has different courts. We've got the spring court, the autumn court, the winter court, and the summer court. So there's 4 like seasonal ones. And then we have the day court, the night court, and the dawn court. So there's also those as well. So there's 7 courts in total for Prithian. And there's also an island off. There are maps in here, thank goodness. There's also another island called Highburn, which we learn the king is there and basically wants to start another war. So there will be war in these books. This one is just, there's so much romance in this. It's just, oh my gosh, so much character development, so much realization of self-worth, and just, it's so stinking good. At the end of book 1, Feyre goes through something pretty traumatic, and so there's a lot of healing in this and a lot of kind of self-discovery too, because she's kind of changed in a way. And so this one is just a lot of character development and a lot of world building, which is awesome, and I really enjoyed it. So the third book is A Court of Wings and Ruin, and I think this is my favorite. It's definitely tied probably with A Court of Mist and Fury, but I love this one because there is so much action. This is this book, the biggest roller coaster in the series. Like, it goes, your emotions are just up and down the whole time, because one crazy thing after another happens. It's so chaotic. It's just amazing. I love the chaos. And there are really cool alliances made. There's just some really cool stuff that happens, and I absolutely adore it. More romance. We love the romance. The war takes place in this. So there is a lot of battle scenes, and I will say I cried. This is the first time I started crying in this series, and then I cried in every other book. But the battle scenes, epic. Oh my gosh, the magic in this, epic. There's so many cool things about this book. Each book just keeps getting better and better. So like this one, slightly better than the second one. Second one, 10 times better than the first one. Like, they just keep getting better. And so this was so good. And honestly, it's very interesting. I feel like this could have just been the end of the series, and it could have been a trilogy, and it would have been like A-okay. But I'm kind of glad that it's not, to be honest. The Court of Wings and Ruin, so action-packed, war, chaos, roller coaster, alliances, and it's fantastic. It's so good. Definitely probably my favorite because I like the action. Okay, the next book in the series is kind of a little one-off, more of like a little novella, and is called A Court of Frost and Starlight. It's very tiny compared to all the other ones, but I loved it. It reminded me of a little holiday special. So think of any type of series and they have a little one-off where it's just like centered around Christmas time. That's what this reminds me of. And it was just happy, it was sweet, it was lighthearted. It was just a good little fluff read in the midst of all the chaos and the heaviness of these books. And I just really adored this book. I think this is a lot of people's least favorite, which I can understand due to the lack of a huge plot point. I think a lot of people probably didn't enjoy it because if you had been reading these as they came out and you waited, say, a year for the next book to come out after the third one, and this was the one, and it was just a tiny short little book, I can maybe understand why you would be disappointed. But as I have been reading them like this past month, I loved it because it was just a little break. It was a nice fluff read, and it just gave my brain a little rest and some happiness before I dove into the next book. So for that, I actually liked it. I've been forgetting to say my ratings for all of these. Okay, sorry. So I said the first one was 3.5. The second and the third one were each 5-star reads for me, if you didn't get that. They're 5 stars. And this was a 4 for me. Just because, I mean, it's not the other two. I can't give it a 5-star. Okay, now we've made it to the final book in the series that is currently out, and that is A Quart of Silver Flames. This book is a monster. She is thick. Thick. I'm going to start off by giving my rating right away. I gave this 4.5 stars. This honestly is like Quart of Mist and Fury 2.0. So it's a lot of more character development, not much more world building, but there's not a lot of action either. So it does just kind of remind me of A Quart of Mist and Fury quite a bit, which, like I said, A-okay by me. I love this book. There is absolutely so many unnecessary sex scenes, in my opinion. I just don't need them. Like, some of them I understood. Some of them made sense in the storyline. Some of them were just like, okay, let's throw this in here because let's throw this in here. And I just don't need that. That could have taken out, honestly, like 50 pages. And this is a 750-page book. So, just saying. All that aside, I loved this book. So actually, in this book, we have, like, the first 3 books are all focused and coming from Feyre's point of view. And then once we got to A Quart of Frost and Starlight, we started just seeing a couple other people's point of views, like Rhysand's, Cassian's, Nesta's, and Mor's. And those names aren't going to make any sense to you until you get into the second book. I'm sorry. But then this book is purely Nesta's point of view and Cassian's point of view. It was different. It took me a while to get adjusted to it because also the way it was written is a little bit different. The narrative, like the first person narrative, changes to more of like a third person narrative or I don't know. I don't remember my narratives, but it's just kind of weird, but you have to get used to it. I honestly really loved this. I think there's amazing character development in this. And friendships are created, so we are introducing new characters who I love. And we kind of get a new unit of warriors. And I am here for it. I am absolutely here for it. There is some more chaos at the end. There's more magical objects brought in. And I just think it's so good. I really loved it. It definitely reminds me of Quart of Mist and Fury. And that's why I absolutely love it. And so I'm hoping that the next book kind of is going to be similar again to A Quart of Wings and Ruin because it's kind of making that pattern. So we'll see, because I also know that there is another little novella coming out. I think it's like, this is considered book 3.1, and I think the one coming out is going to be 3.2 maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm just going off by what I see on Goodreads. Honestly, overall, I'd have to give this series a 5-star. If not 5, then at least 4.5. I will 1000% be rereading this series. I don't know if I'll be rereading it this year or not, but I will definitely be rereading it because I absolutely adore it. I love the characters. I love the world. I love the magic. And while we're on the subject of it, let me put these back. Does it bother me that I have one paperback and the rest are hardbacks? Yes. But does it bother me more that A Quart of Silver Flames has white lettering versus the black lettering of all the other hardbacks? Yes. Okay, so that's my overall view of the series in general. But let's talk about the TV show. You guys, it was just announced like 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I don't know. It was just announced that there's a TV show being produced by Hulu for ACOTAR. And you know what? Yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also really nervous because the co-writer or the co-producer, I'm not sure, is Ron Howard. No, Ron something. I think it's Ron Howard. Let me double check this. Ron Moore. Okay, so I was wrong. Not Ron Howard. Ron Moore. And he is the one that kind of produced and wrote or whatever directed Outlander. And Outlander is a great book series. It's also a great show. And honestly, the book to show adaptation is like spot on. Like, it's very, very well done, which gives me hopes for ACOTAR. However, the thing with Ron Moore is these sex scenes from Outlander are very graphically done in the show. I don't need that. Like, I can leave that to the imagination. I don't need to see it. And so I'm scared it's gonna happen. So the other thing, the thing I'm actually more worried about, because sex scenes or whatever, you can fast forward, but the war, when it gets to the war and it gets to fighting, I don't want to see blood. I'm squeamish. I don't want to see blood squirting everywhere. I want it to be like something done by the CW where it happens but nothing is squirting out. Please. I don't want to see the blood. But I want to watch the fight scenes, because these fight scenes, like especially in the third book, they have so emotion and so much to offer that I want to be able to watch it without having to go like this and like looking through my hands. And so that's kind of what I'm worried about. The other thing is there is so much, like, this is a magical world with magical beings. There are wings that need to be done. There are like beastie stuff that need to be done. There are pointed ears. Like, I don't want it to look like it's been CGI'd. I want it to look realistic. So the thing with Outlander is they didn't really need that much CGI. Whereas like this is gonna have to be like purely CGI because they are magical beings. They are fairies. They are not human. So it's just, I hope the costume design lives up to the costumes in the books. I hope the CGI lives up to the amazingness of the magical creatures and everyone in the series. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm also mega excited. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I'm excited, but also really, really nervous. I really don't want it to like ruin the series, and I don't want it to change too much. Like the books are so good, they can't change as much, okay? So I don't know what I'm thinking, but those are my thoughts. That's my thoughts on the series. I loved it. And now I really want to order some like Cassian and Rhysand candles and like some little roll-on perfumes, and I want some ACOTAR swag. Like, I wish I was wearing an ACOTAR sweatshirt or sweatpants or something right now. Like, I just want merch. So put down below your favorite like Etsy shops, merch shops. Like, let me know, because I want stuff. So please drop all the people down below if you have people, and let me know your thoughts on the series. Are you excited for the TV show that's coming out? Are you nervous? What are your thoughts? Let me know. But that's all I've got for you guys. So thank you guys for watching this. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!